it's time for our topic of the week. A couple weeks ago, we did like a New Year's episode. We talked about what we're looking forward to, some predictions and stuff. We're going to do some hyper-focused, what we want to play in 2021, what we're hyped about for 2021. So what we're going to do is we're going to go one by one. We're not going to go around like we usually do, and we're going to talk about what our plan, maybe even month by month, maybe not, maybe just a more general plan, but what our plan for 2021 is gaming wise, which games we want to finish, how many we want to finish, and what kind of time frame. And we'll see who's got the most ludicrous ideas, who's got the most sensible ideas, and I think I already know who that is. But we're going to go ahead and start off with Sean. So Sean, take it away.
All right. So I've got this all jotted up down on a piece of paper. So there's for our wonderful viewers, you can see what I wrote down here as in my various timelines. So I broke mine up into, so I have like 3, maybe 4 categories, which I'll mention the fourth when I get to the first game in it, the first and only game in it. But I kind of have, I always like to have like a primary, usually my bigger name game that I'm playing. I'll have like a secondary game. And then I like to have, just in case the wife and I can get to it, my wife multiplayer game. So we're in January right now. Obviously, the main game I'm playing right now, as we already talked about, is Squadrons, and I think I'll wrap that up probably this month because, as we talked about, it's only like I think a 9-hour campaign. I'll probably play a little bit of the PvP, but I don't see myself playing a ton of that unless like the fleet battles versus the AI is super fun, and I keep going back to it. But even then, if that happens, it'll drop to my secondary game. And so I think I'll wrap that up by the end of January, early February. My secondary game right now, as I also mentioned, is Astroneer, where when I'm really just looking to unwind and not really have to be all that concerned about things. I'm working through all the achievements on that, and that's actually one, because it is my background game, will probably take me a couple months to get through. And then Age of Calamity is my multiplayer game, and while I have other multiplayer games that show up later in the year, it's anyone's guess when I'll finish any multiplayer game for my wife because of our schedules. But nominally, I'm going to finish that by the start of April. So from there, moving into February, I'm going to go retro, and I'm going to beat KOTOR. I'm going to beat my playthrough of KOTOR. I think that'll probably take me because I think I have probably more than not more than half, less than 2/3 of the game left. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna beat that sometime in March.
Are you gonna play KOTOR 2?
KOTOR 2 shows up later in the year.
Later in the year, all right. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Nothing changed for secondary game, wife multiplayer. March, I said, I think KOTOR. But I also, my hope here, and I have no reason to, I have no proof backing this up, but I assume it's going to happen, is sometime between now and March, Stardew Valley 1.5 is going to come out on the Switch.
That sounds reasonable based on what he said. He usually, yeah, I believe that. Probably even sooner than, like, I'd probably say like February or something.
That's my hope. So I'll get to it in March. It'll be my secondary game in March. I just want, I'll be done with Astroneer. I want to relax. I'll probably load up my late, my like year 7 and play through the new content. Mm-hmm. Stardew Valley will probably also occasionally shift over into my wife multiplayer as we take advantage of that same screen co-op.
Sure.
And then that brings us into April, and April is at least going to start, I think, with me hopefully with KOTOR wrapped up, playing Monster Hunter Rise or maybe even Monster Hunter World. But I'm going to at least start playing a Monster Hunter game in April.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I'm going to enjoy them, and if I don't enjoy them, my backup game is just to go ahead and start Final Fantasy VII Remake
in April. Okay, I'll put that down on my list now just to have it there. Yeah.
And so. Nominally is so going into May, Monster Hunter, Final Fantasy VII kind of goes over into May, and then I think my secondary game is going to be KOTOR 2. So I'll be playing maybe Monster Hunter, and especially if I'm playing Monster Hunter and I need like to take back and get some good story driven, character driven gameplay as opposed to that loot that loot loop. I'm gonna go play KOTOR 2. And then because I don't know exactly what to get Final Fantasy VII, that really screws up June. So June presumably will be Final Fantasy VII and KOTOR 2, and that'll probably carry over into July. If I've beaten Age of Calamity, my wife and I will probably try to go back and beat the Halo 4, maybe Halo 3 ODST.
Cool.
And so that's the first half of my year, except for one other thing, which is if I had to guess, somewhere in March, April timeframe, we're looking at a Skyrim relapse.
No, don't. You can't say it out loud. You won't make it that far. So true, right? So true. Now he's on a video game podcast where the chances of him talking about it are constant. Like it's always going to happen way sooner than he expects.
I'm optimistic. That's my stretch goal. If I can make it to and not give until Skyrim till March, I will have considered that making progress against my addiction.
That's totally fair. Before you continue in the second half, I want to dial back to Final Fantasy VII Remake because, like I said, I want to play that as close as possible with you because I want to replay that game. And what better excuse than when someone else is doing it? Jason, would you like to commit to playing it with us?
Ooh.
No.
Oh, come on.
that was a hard no.
You can play on easy mode.
When?
April? Is that what you said, Sean?
April, May, probably.
Okay.
Yeah. It depends how much I enjoy Monster Hunter.
Yeah. Shot me down for that. I'll do it.
All right.
I'm going to play it on Baby.
We've never done that. We've never played a game. Hades was the closest we came, but we all played it like staggered it kind of. So that'd be neat. Just saying.
I'll do it.
Just a book club kind of thing.
Oh, gonna hate it, but I'll do it.
You might not. No, you're not gonna hate it. Why would you hate it? No, better yet, play the original while we play the remake.
I've already tried that.
Well, you were enjoying it. You just stopped.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about that.
Anyway, Sean, continue. Second half of the year.
My plans for the second half of the year get a little bit light. So besides probably finishing up Final Fantasy VII, finishing up KOTOR 2, getting into July, I've been wanting to play the Ori games.
Ooh, very good.
I think kind of July, August. Maybe my backup game, maybe my primary game, and focusing on them heavily for a month. And they're both on Game Pass. Is going through and beating those.
Very short
because they're short. They really intrigue me, and I did commit that I wanted to play more indies. And besides Astroneer and Stardew Valley, there's not. I don't have any other indies on my list so far. And then it gets pretty dry. So September as like my secondary game, I think I'll maybe try to commit myself to finally beating the last half to 1/3 of Mario Odyssey that I think I have left.
Cool.
And seeing the end of that game. Probably another Skyrim relapse somewhere in the fall, if I had to guess. And then I'm going to predict that like September, October, Halo Infinite's going to come out, and it'll come out on Game Pass. And so I would like to play through that, and I'll probably play through that both with my younger brother and with my wife, because they've committed that as Halo 5 didn't have same screen co-op, but Infinite is supposed to have couch co-op.
Very nice. And the multiplayer is free? Is that right?
I think so. I think the multiplayer is going to be free.
We can all play it.
We'll see how much I play of it. 5 was really good. They increased the mobility. Obviously, nothing close to Titanfall 2, but it might be enough that I'll enjoy it.
It's got sprint now. We're sprinting everywhere.
Yeah. Things that aren't on my list are Deathloop and God of War, and that's because it's just very unlikely that I get a PS5 this year.
Fair enough.
Whereas Infinite's coming out on the One, and with it being on Game Pass, it's pretty easy for me to pick that up right away if I was waiting for it to drop in price. Games that I would like to play, but I'm not sure I'm going to get to is I would like to beat Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, it is a little bit of a bland game, but I do want to see where it goes. I would like to start and beat Horizon Zero Dawn. And then is Baldur's Gate 3 coming out in its entirety this year?
I honestly don't
know.
Yeah, I don't think they're anywhere near ready to announce a release date. That doesn't mean no, but it's probably no.
So, like, if that comes out, I'm certainly going to hear the siren call. But I stand by what I said before, that I really don't want to start that until I can play it in its entirety.
Yeah, you don't need to. Like, Jason and I, especially Jason, because he never touched a game like that, at least not a very, very long time. Definitely probably needed the taste. But
and then I was looking at like Game Informer's list of games kind of coming out that they know so far this year, and like on the indie front, there wasn't a ton of games that jumped out at me. There was one called Sword of the Necromancer, where like you get a sword, and it's a roguelike and like a dungeon delver roguelike, and but you have the ability to like raise your defeated enemies from the dead in order to basically that's your way of kind of defeating, of growing in power. And the premise seems to be you're trying to like gain enough power to revive your departed beloved. That looks fun, but obviously it's going to suffer from what all of us experience, which is how do you go play a roguelike after Hades?
It's got to be a really good one.
You just put enough time between you.
And that's, then, so if I play that, may play that year, but I do need to find other Hades.
I will tell you, Sean,
or other indies to play.
I had the same thought about Dead Cells. So I was like, oh, there's never going to be one as good as Dead Cells, and Hades proved me wrong. So
I mean, I'll keep an eye on that one, but that's really the only one. I mainly Karch just talked about Silk Song. I do want to go back and play Hollow Knight, but that's something maybe I'll consider. But I do feel like I need to work some more indie games into my list.
Now, Sean, when you play a game, obviously certain games just don't qualify for this, but when you play a game, do you sit down and you're like, I'm going to play this game, and do you pretty much usually commit to finishing it, or are you like Jason and ready to drop things whenever and for no reason?
No, I will usually, if I pick a game, I will play it to completion. Like me not beating The Witcher 3 is something I had not done in a very long time.
Right.
With like a few, I mean, like I did play like a game called Ashen a while back on the Game Pass, and then I got pulled off of Game Pass, and I was like, well, I enjoyed this, but not enough to go buy it and play it myself. But and like Monster Hunter is going to be interesting because like that's all going to come down to probably the first few hours I play that game, and does the combat and the gameplay loop jive with me? And if it doesn't, I'll probably very quickly move on from Monster Hunter. But if it does, it's anyone's guess how much time I spend playing that game.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to recommend. Like, I would love to have like a Monster Hunter buddy on the Switch, but like I can't. I mean, obviously, you can definitely try it out on my Switch. You can try it out on Game Pass with World, because they're similar enough to like if you like one, you will like the other without a doubt. But like I can't recommend somebody just drop $60 on a game like that without really knowing what they're getting into.
Well, and I just get like I played Destiny, and I played Destiny very dedicatedly for probably like at least like year and a half, 2 years, to the point where like, but I remember eventually stepping back from Destiny and be like, I have obtained a second job. Like I had to get on.
It's not like that at all. It's
okay. That's good.
It can become the focus, like, but only because of how fun it is. It doesn't have that. It never, and maybe this will be different, but Monster Hunter never has that, like, no, you have to play today. You got to do your day. There are dailies, but they're not the same. Like, it's just not the same kind of thing.
And part of it was because, like, one, I mean, yeah, the PvP, but even like the end content in Destiny, like you had to like grind to push your power level up enough to then play the next level of content. And then every time they released a DLC or an expansion or whatever, you had to do that all over again. And I eventually was like it just became so tedious to try to like keep pace with the power creep in that game that I eventually got, and Destiny has really burnt me out on those kind of loot. I mean, Destiny's a loot shooter, but those loot driven games. So I'm hoping Monster Hunter isn't quite like that, and I want to give it a shot. But I also am not terribly interested in getting super focused on that game for a long time. But I would like to experience it. Yeah,
on paper they sound the same. Like, oh, of course I'll fall into the same trap, but it's just not, and it's hard to explain without just experiencing it. So. And probably mostly because there is this, you can play the whole thing single player. It's got the co-op feature, but that's just three more people on the same monster hunt you were always going to do. And it's a little bit easier because 4 people wailing on a monster, even with more HP, is still way easier than 1 person because it can focus on other people.
And that's like that I don't mind doing it. It's but yeah, so like I said, we'll see come April. I may try to get a little bit in with Monster Hunter World and maybe make that decision ahead of time so I can decide whether or not I'm just going to lean all the way into Final Fantasy VII Remake.
All right. Let's see if I have any suggestions for you. Do you have any suggestions for Sean before we move on to you, Jason?
If he's not getting a PS5, not really.
I would not expect me to go next gen. Probably if I make it at the end of this year, it'll probably be with an Xbox, but most likely I won't make it next gen until next year.
Near Replicant comes out this year.
You're focusing on building a PC this year, right, Sean?
Yeah, and also just making Lieutenant and having more disposable income.
Yeah,
because I'm I'm still income right now. So like I think things are a little tight.
Sure.
Yeah, Near Replicant comes out for PS4, Xbox One in 2020.
That's the remake of the
the
first
remake of
one?
Near, yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Or updated version of Replicant, titled Near Replicant version 1.2224. It's something stupid, classic Square Enix. Anyway, Jason, what is your gaming schedule look like?
So I took a slightly different approach, as I'm sure you did as well. Took a different approach from Sean or me, and I went through the list of games that we know when they're releasing. I kind of have these segmented into what is my mental backlog? What do I know that's coming out that I'm excited for? And then what are my gaming goals? And so in terms of goals, similar to Sean, I do kind of tend to have my main game be a single player AAA game. Then I have my multiplayer game, and then I'll usually have like an indie game in between major releases or something like that, or like I'll snag a VR title. So I won't spend a lot of time on that sort of thing here. I want to talk about that more as we go through. And usually, to be honest, I don't really have any plans in that way anyway, in terms of indies or VR titles. Those are usually things it's like, hey, I'm looking for something right now to go in between these two AAA releases, and
right.
I will find something I think looks interesting.
You've got Foregone kind of on the back burner though.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to get that demo. I did want to play that demo, but I wanted to do a gameplay video and I wanted to use my green screen. And now that I have all this desk stuff coming, I'm just like, I'll just wait till I get my desk set up. And anyway, we'll see if I ever get to that.
It's always something new.
But yeah, so in terms of like my mental backlog, I would try really hard, at least ever since we started this podcast, to not let those things weigh on me as much.
Mm-hmm.
But these are some games that I just can't get out of my head yet. And it doesn't necessarily mean I want to play them. It in some cases, it means I spent money on it and I don't feel like I've gotten nearly the investment out of it. So games that are on my mental, or games I haven't bought, but I do want to get around to. And I won't play all these this year, but this is my mental backlog. Outer Worlds Peril of Gorgon. That's their first DLC pack that they released. I'm not sure that they've released any more standalone DLC.
No,
but
they haven't.
That's one that I want to do just because I love the Outer Worlds so much, and I've been wanting to play a game like that, and so why not just play the DLC that's sitting right in front of me? BioShock 2 and 3, you and I went halvesies on the collection for the Switch, and I just haven't really been in a Switch mood. But now that I have the Pro controller, I might hook it up to the TV and give it another go and see if I can get kind of interested in it again. Horizon Zero Dawn, I probably want to do that on PC, even though I know it's not going to be as good of an experience, but we'll see. Final Fantasy VII Remake, which apparently I just committed to playing with you guys in the spring, so I guess that's definitely going on there. Ghost of Tsushima, which is something I was kind of borrowing from you, Karch. And it's something that it is in the back of my head of like right now, this very second, I don't have a major game that I'm playing, which I think is why I haven't been gaming as much, is because I'm not focused on anything.
Yeah,
that one
something.
is one that was a really good game that I think I could go back and get into. Control, that's been kind of sitting there, and I did get a taste of that when I tested out Amazon Luna, and I did like what I played. But I want to wait for my new graphics card for that one, because I want to experience the ray tracing and the apparently it does a pretty good job with DLSS 2.0 AI rendering, so I want to check that out. Baldur's Gate 3, and then God of War. It's always going to be there. So in terms of like my goals for this year, I said I wanted to beat more games. I want to try to beat 6 AAA single player games this year, because I'm going to give myself 2 months per game, and I think that will be a long enough time if I actually commit to playing anything. And I'll probably start with a backlog game, and my heart right now is gravitating towards Outer Worlds Peril of Gorgon, partially because I think it's bite-sized enough that I could actually finish it, even though I haven't started it yet. I think I could still actually finish it by the end of February.
You did finish Outer Worlds, right?
Right, but I'm specifically talking about...
Right. I just wanted to double check. I couldn't remember, so...
Yeah. And then the Medium comes out in the end of this month, and it's only 8 to 10 hours long, and it looked really cool. So
what is that? I don't remember hearing about that.
That's the one that I believe Xbox revealed at their console event, and it had like the dual reality where you would flip back and forth between the two parallel universes.
Yeah, I think I do remember seeing that.
So, okay, this is, for all intents and purposes, this is a horror game. It's a psychological thriller. What are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't know.
You're not going to play the media. What are you talking about? It looks awesome. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. It looks really cool. I just learned it's not coming to PS5 because I have forgotten the exclusivity, so I won't actually get to play it anytime soon.
Well, you can play it on PC.
I don't want to play it on PC. We've been through this.
Why do you even own a PC?
I made this thing like 4 years ago, and I have no intentions to upgrade it. So I don't own a PC.
You told me you were going to buy a solid state drive today.
That's for me and Rachel, so that like our lives aren't miserable with our tiny 128 gigabyte C drive.
Oh my god!
Gotcha.
Just solid state. I have a much bigger HDD, but
okay.
But as I was complaining to Jason earlier, a lot of things when
called.
Exactly. When you go to install stuff, a lot of the time it's like, no, C drive. I'm like, but I have this E drive. It's much bigger. Please use it. No, C drive. Only C. And so it's like, okay, well, screw you. Anyway, side rant.
Okay, so maybe I don't play the medium, and maybe that's where Final Fantasy VII slides in, because that would be that time frame. Yeah, we're looking to play it. Which that'll bring us, so January, February backlog game, March, April Final Fantasy VII. And honestly, like, I don't think it would be the biggest deal in the world if I got a little bit of a head start on you guys, because I'm going to go through it a lot slower. And then May, June is going to be Deathloop for sure. And Deathloop doesn't come out until like toward the end of May, so I'll definitely need all of June. And these gaps in here, you know, I also have multiplayer games that I'll talk about, and like I said, I have the filler indie, the filler VR, but this is kind of my high level AAA game schedule. Then in the summer, there's not really anything that piqued my interest, so I might go take another dip into the backlog. Early fall, hopefully we get Horizon Zero Dawn, or not Horizon Zero Dawn, but Horizon sequel.
Forbidden West, yeah.
Okay, or God of War, or Ratchet and Clank. And then that leaves me one open spot for my 6th that I don't know what I'm going to fill with it yet.
Breath of the Wild,
but presumably,
too.
like, yeah. Oh, Breath of the Wild.
Neither of you have mentioned that yet. That's on mine. Well, so
I'm not as hopeful or as optimistic about that game coming out this year as you are.
Oh, I think it's gonna. I think it is.
I hope I'm wrong, and you tend to be more right about these things than I do. So I hope you're right, but I'm not banking on it. But also, I mean, most of my second half of my year is pretty open, so I can fit it in.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same way, because I highly doubt we're getting Horizon and a God of War sequel and Ratchet and Clank all this year. So, you know, those are 3 games that I really want to play, but I don't think we're getting
PS5 next year.
I mean, and that's the thing, I'm not going to buy one until one of those 3 games comes out. But other things that pique my interest for this year that I know I'm going to be playing, like I know I'm going to be playing Hitman 3, but I'm likely going to be playing that with other people via screen sharing, like Dixper. So like, I'm not really including that because that's not something I'm going to sit down and dedicate time to. That's going to be like my social game. And then the same thing goes for Far Cry 6. That's going to be a game that I play probably with Tyler. Anybody else that wants to buy it's welcome to play. I think you can have 4 people in a party, but I know I'm going to play that game with Tyler. And then another one I might try to slip in, and we'll see, because this would be a huge commitment, but the Mass Effect trilogy is supposed to be coming out this spring.
Oh, yeah. Totally forgot about that.
So like, that's one I feel like I owe it to myself to go and play those games, and there's not going to be a better time to do it, because
they are good games. Like
and they're not long. They're not like super long, especially if you just critical path it.
They're in the probably like 35-ish hours, I think.
I wouldn't even say that long. Maybe it's been a really long time since I played.
Well, I mean, if you critical path it, yes, they're a lot shorter. But I think even the 100%, it's only probably 35, 40 hours.
Right. Yeah. Sounds good.
Another kind of multiplayer game is that Back 4 Blood game that's kind of like a Left 4 Dead clone. And then I saw Prince of Persia is getting a remake in March. I remember really liking that game on Xbox, the original Xbox, but I doubt I'll actually play it. Like, I don't think I'm going to buy it.
People are not loving the way it looks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it looks
I probably
ugly.
I probably won't play it, but that kind of, I saw the title and I was like, oh, okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit like Sean. I have a skeleton here. It'll need fleshed out as we go. I will definitely commit to playing some Final Fantasy VII with the two of you. I'm going to try so hard to finish it, but we'll see.
We shall see.
Do you have games looking forward to next year that you want to play with Luke?
I do. The main one is Super Mario 3D World, and that comes out in like next week, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that one because today when we booted up the Switch to play Mario Kart, that little trailer was off to the side, and I just wanted to gauge his interest, and I said, "Oh, hey Luke, we should watch that." And he goes, "Oh yeah." So he like, we turned it on and he watched it, and we got halfway through. And he wanted to rewind it, so we rewound it, and it was that 7-minute long,
my goodness,
extended trailer. And I go, yeah, this looks pretty cool, don't you think? And he goes, oh yeah, it is. I watched this on my Switch. So apparently he figured out how to get to it from his, and he's watched this thing like 6 times already by himself.
Adorable.
And he's excited about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I will say I love. It's so fun to like when a trailer pops up that Julia even might kind of enjoy. Obviously, the Animal Crossing ones I'll show her, but I did the same thing with her on the shorter Bowser's Fury one, and it's just like there's somebody in this house, a physical human being who will enjoy this video with me, and it's awesome, even if she's never gonna play it.
And Lauren said she is gonna try to play it with us too, and I know she can because she played it on the Wii U and it didn't make her motion sick. So like, it's something about the way the camera's locked that. She can play it. So
all right, so before we move on to me, you've got basically one game every 2 months, and I already gave you a pass earlier. I said that you guys pretty much rolled credits on Mario Kart. You've played that game through enough to, I think that counts. But do you have a game that you like that you're going to try to finish before February is over? I mean,
not one that I'm committing to, but if you pinned me down, I'd probably say Outer Worlds Peril of Gorgon, but I have to buy it. And I'm already going to go halvesies on Hitman 3. So that means maybe Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know. No, I to answer your question, I don't have one that I'm like, yes, I'm going to start this like tomorrow.
Right. Okay. Cool. And then
you got to figure out if your squadrons can, or your VR setup can run squadrons.
That too.
It can. I just have to get the cable to do it.
Man, games are too long, but they're so good.
I know.
The last thing I'll say before I move on, and I think I just said that again, please play God of War. Please play and finish God of War,
okay.
I should say.
Is that what you were going to say? Is that should be the game that I play before February?
No, I mean, it could be. You could start it now and then come back to it later if some other more timely things get in the way. But man, you got to play that game before the new one comes out at least.
Okay. Maybe, you know what? Maybe that's what I'll do, Karch. I'll restart God of War, and that's going to be my January, February backlog game.
Slap it easy on. Slap it on easy, because it's not a hard game, even on like the thing, but like you will have a good time still, I think. I really do, because sometimes,
I'll leave it on default until it gets too hard, and then I'll drop it down.
I think that is a thing you can do, so that's fine. Cool. All right, my turn. Let's see. I think I had the most structured list of anybody. Here, I'm going to copy and paste it.
Diagram that's like a Gantt chart.
Well, I can't see your Gantt chart, Gantt boy.
Boom. Now you've ruined the illusion.
There. It's there now. Okay.
Oh, look at you.
All right, so January is almost over, and I've made some pretty good progress. I started and finished Kingdom Hearts 1. I think I technically started it at the end of 2020, but doesn't matter.
I'll give it to you.
And it's so like I'm the only person here who has dedicated time to games he's already played because I said I was going to do this Kingdom Hearts thing, and the only pass that I get is because I'm making content out of it. So Kingdom Hearts 1 is out of the way. I wanted to start Nier Automata. I wanted to start Nier. I'm going to just say Nier from now on, and I did, so that's good. And then I want to finish Fell Seal. It's starting to drag a bit. Like there's just a lot of battles with like kind of nothing to hold them up. It's just battle. I'm like, oh, come on, let's pick this pace up. And if it doesn't, I might just say, okay, this was really fun and it's really good for this type of game, but this is not a type of game I want to spend 40 hours on necessarily. So I might just say goodbye, Fell Seal. Then in February, I hope to have finished Nier Automata. I don't know if I will. We'll see though. And then I want to start and finish Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, which I am going to play on a handheld, so that's why I put both of those games there.
Question on Nier. When are you going to consider yourself finished, given like all of the multiple endings?
Sean says there's 3, so I'll probably just do whatever Sean said as far as like the 3 major playthroughs.
Yeah, you have to get through the 3 major playthroughs.
Is there a possibility that you won't get a certain ending on a playthrough?
I don't want to talk about that.
So there's
okay.
I don't want to spoil it. I'm having too good a time. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out however it's gonna, But when I'm satisfied with this game, which I very much doubt will be until I've seen everything that it has to offer from a narrative perspective.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, continue.
Yep, and then there's Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, which was the Game Boy card-based battle one. Not very long at all, so it shouldn't be too hard to do that on a handheld. And then when I started this list, I completely forgot Bravely Default was coming out. I am going to very much wait for impressions on this, maybe like even a couple weeks, because it just didn't hook me when I played the demo on pretty much every aspect, and all the trailers make this look like a cornball piece of garbage, honestly. And the first one was too, but it walked that line so well. Like, it was really corny, but it had so much heart, and the story was actually quite good. And of course, the combat was excellent. And they've tweaked the combat enough to this where I'm like, this isn't quite what it was. Why didn't you just keep it like the way it was? And we'll see. So, but I might start it. And if I do start it, I hope to finish it in March, because there's no way I'll finish it in February if it comes out in February, or if I get it in February. And then up in March, I'm going to start and finish Kingdom Hearts 2, which should be fun. And then Kena Bridge of Spirits looks really good. I don't know if you guys remember this, but supposedly it's coming out Q1, and Q1 ends in March, if I'm not mistaken. So
it'll be March 30th.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if it comes out by then, I'll probably pick it again. Again, question marks here are for like either I don't know if it's going to come out here or if I'm going to play it for one reason or another. And again, this one I will be a little, I'll wait for impressions or what the pre-release stuff is looking like as we get closer to it. I'm going to dabble in Bowser's Fury, like just the actual Bowser's Fury. I'll mooch off of Jason on that one, but I have no intention to like replay that game when I have it on the Wii U, which, much like Jason, I'll just be playing with my family from time to time. And then finally, Monster Hunter comes out on the 21st or something like that. So it's pretty late in March,
I think.
Yeah, and I put start and never finish because this is a game you just don't fit. You can roll credits on it actually reasonably within like a 25 to 45 hour range. It varies from game to game, but there is like every Monster Hunter has a story, and it has its the monster on the box cover is like the monster that the story is like chasing, and once you beat that, usually you can kind of quote unquote call the game beat. There's so much end game content that just continues though, where you just keep fighting more and more harder monsters. But yeah, I mean, I will be playing Monster Hunter for sure, but there's no finishing Monster Hunter. It just doesn't really end until you're done with it. All right, that's March. So far, I don't think this is too unreasonable, especially if I nix Bravely Default 2. April, I then have Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days. That is a DS title, so that'll be like my handheld game. And then Baldur's Gate, I put that in here. I talked about that earlier, that I do want to finish Act 1, so I just threw it in April because I didn't have much else to place to put it. And then, as we discussed earlier, Final Fantasy VII Remake, play along with Sean, which, I'll go at his pace. I won't, pull ahead too quickly. And Jason, of course.
That's
yes.
the case you're looking at playing on the weekends.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well,
that's fine.
That'll be good. We'll probably pace it all reasonably with each other.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, I have very little doubt you'll enjoy it and play it all the way completion without issue. But if I find this, I don't want to replay the whole thing. I obviously have already played it, so we can still do our spoiler cast eventually. But
yeah,
we'll see. I probably won't play on hard. Hard is really hard, so I probably won't do that. Then in May, it's my birthday, and I'm getting myself a PS5. Not like you ninnies who are like, I'm waiting till next year. I'm going to build a PC instead. Nope, I'm a console peasant through and through, and I'm going to get myself a brand spanking new one.
There's got to be one in every bunch.
There's got to be. Well, yeah, exactly. I'm the console peasant in this bunch.
I mean, I really just want a PC mostly so I can mod Skyrim and play Kerbal. So.
Oh my
That's
gosh!
fair.
I was gonna help you pick parts up, but I don't know if I'm going to anymore.
he's going to put an anti-Skyrim chip in the graphics card. He won't play it.
Then it's just a big paperweight.
The biggest. I don't know what I'm going to play on my PS5 right away.
Exactly.
Returnal looks really good. I put the medium or Returnal. Returnal comes out in March, if I'm not mistaken. I thought the medium was going to be available. It won't be, so I won't be playing that on my PS5. It still looks really good, and I wanted to play it. Returnal is the Housemarque game, which basically, Sean was talking about how do you go from Hades to something else. Returnal looks like maybe one of the very first, well done at least, AAA roguelites, because that's basically...
It does look good, yeah.
Yeah, with a heavier emphasis, obviously, on their bread and butter, which is kind of a bullet hell, dodgy, projectiles all over the place. But it's got this really cool, hard sci-fi looking, almost like Aliens vibe. Like Aliens, the movie series, not just Aliens in general. But I'll have lots of time to determine whether that game is good or not, because, again, it comes out in March, and I won't be able to play it until at least May. Then I will play Kena if it's out, and I haven't played it yet. Because, again, it was supposed to be a PS5 launch game, and then they got pushed back. All dependent on how well it reviews, that kind of stuff. Deathloop is on my list. That's a maybe. It looks really good, and I know Jason wants to play it, so obviously going splitsies on that will be a no-brainer. And then my handheld in this time frame is going to be Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, although I don't know if I'm going to play it on the handheld, because this one was originally on the PSP, and the upgrades on the final mix version on the PS4 there's nothing, they're all good. It's not like there's not a huge difference like there is between the Chain of Memories one from the Game Boy, which is obviously a huge difference.
So when you say PSP, does that mean you could play it on the Vita, or how would that work?
I have a PSP and a Vita, and so I could play it originally on the PSP. I have the actual UMD for it. It's one of the very few PSP games I actually own physically. Yeah. So the story on that is Robert had a PSP. Actually, this is Robert's PSP that I borrowed and never returned because he just didn't care. And then I said, hey, I'll buy this game. You let me play it first since I don't have a PSP. And then, of course, I'll let you borrow it and play it for as long as you want. And that was the deal. And so that's how I played it originally when it came out. But I can, I have the Vita hacked to emulate PSP. And so I could technically do that too. And then finally, I could play it on the PS4. In June... No, so around the same time, okay, halfway through the year, you guys started getting a little dry. So does mine. Now it's there's just so many games that are going to get announced between now and then. So many games I've forgotten. But in June, I've got 2 more Kingdom Hearts games. I want to finish Birth by Sleep. And even though I said I wasn't going to play Recoded, I might play it anyway because it is part of the series and it has, decent enough gameplay. But it is stranded on the DS. That is the only way to play it. And I played it before. It's the only one I've never finished. It's the only, quote unquote, main Kingdom Hearts game that wasn't on a phone that I've never finished.
Can you not emulate this one?
You could, but then it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other, because it's either I play it on my DS or I emulate it on my phone. There's not really a huge difference there at that point.
Oh, I see.
Because Birth by Sleep is in the PS, it has a PS4 version essentially. It's in that bundle collection thing where I could play it on the PS4 officially, And then this is it is only a handheld game, coded, that is. July is the next Kingdom Hearts game, Dream Drop Distance, which is Jason's favorite entry in the series. I'll play and finish that on my 3DS, or I'll buy the PS4 version, play it on my TV. Then there's Kingdom Hearts 3, and then I'll be done with that saga in August.
Wow.
And so for September, October, November, December, it's all mostly guessing or hopeful wishing, that kind of stuff, except for September, which is I want to start Bloodborne at least. I have it on PS Plus, so I'll just reactivate that. Somebody who wrote Don't play Bloodborne.
Oh, I wrote that.
Why?
Wrote that. I don't know. I played it. I didn't like it.
Well,
Bloodborne's it's an iteration on Dark Souls, right?
It's basically Dark Souls, but with a harder lean towards like the really gothic horror version, like the Eldritch stuff of it. But yeah, it's pretty much just Dark Souls again.
I guess what I don't love about it, and I don't know, I mean, you might enjoy this, but I feel like it has that consequential combat like God of War, like Ghost of Tsushima, even like what's the other Japanese one that was actually the same studio
as what? Oh, Sekiro?
Yeah, Sekiro. Yeah. But it's just the combat in this is so slow.
In Bloodborne or Dark Souls? Because Bloodborne's supposed to be faster.
It's faster, but it's still slow.
Yeah,
but you coming from Monster Hunter, I mean, maybe that's not a big deal to you, because I find that combat in Monster Hunter to be a little sluggish as well. So
it's very sluggish.
I mean, maybe it won't bother you at all. I just, it seems like when I encountered the first boss, now granted, I didn't put a ton of time into this game, but I did encounter the first big boss, and I felt like that guy can move 1,000,000 miles per second, and I was just like, oh, and I'm dead. One hit. So I don't know. Maybe that's your thing. It's just I didn't rage quit it, but this is the type of game you rage quit.
Sure, and I might. I played Dark Souls 3. I gave it a good 2 hours, and I wasn't making any kind of satisfying progress, I should say. I wasn't having fun dying over and over.
I could not get past the first boss in that game either.
I want to say I did, and that was but I couldn't get much further than that. But I don't even remember, honestly. I did beat the first boss, because it's literally you go through a small hallway, a small room, and then at the boss, and I did beat him. But I didn't get much further after that, because again, I was having fun. Because my problem with these games, and what I'll probably run into with these games, is death is punishing, but it's slow. I don't want to waste time getting back to the game if I'm going to be doing this a lot. If I'm going to be dying a lot, factor that in. Don't give me some slow "you died" screen and take 40 hours to load up to the next one. And then, of course, by the nature of the game, I have to walk or run or defeat all these enemies again. We'll see. People love it. I've never tried it. It's supposedly different enough from Dark Souls. And I don't know, maybe I'll swap out Bloodborne for Sekiro or something, because that definitely did seem maybe a little bit more my speed.
Sure, yeah.
All the Japanese stuff and everything. All right, next up I have October. And I have no idea if it's going to come out in October, but I am pretty sure that Final Fantasy 16 is coming out this year. I think this game is very far along. They were very, very, very quiet about anything related to it after 15 came out, and that trailer, and you can't go off a trailer necessarily, but that trailer looked like a complete-ish product. They've got a lot of this game finished.
Honestly, I may join you in this, especially if playing Final Fantasy VII kind of re-whets my appetite for Final Fantasy games.
And this is going to be very active. The combat is probably the most frenetic it has ever been in a Final Fantasy, because it's going to be full-on Devil May Cry style stuff. Which at first I thought, that's dumb, but then now playing Nier, I'm like, there's
ways to do it good.
Yeah, exactly. And I've never played a Devil May Cry, so this is all that's purely just speculative. So yeah, but I love. Final Fantasy.
Join you both as well, because this one really did catch my eye, and I think it was kind of the aesthetic. It's I'm more drawn to that medieval than whatever Final Fantasy VII is.
Right. Then November, I got hopeful and I put Breath of the Wild 2. I'm going to start it because it's totally going to be out by November. And then
I hope you're right.
I hope I'm right too. And then Final Fantasy IX finally plays. I really would like to finish that game, do the videos for the channel and stuff. And I might start that sooner in the year at any point whenever I find like, okay, now's the time to do that. But I could knock that out in a month if I wanted to, just doing it here and there. But we'll see. And then again, legally obligated. Sony has to put God of War Ragnarok out by the end of the year. So I gave them till December. That's fine. I'll play it. Once I start that game, I'll be done in like 2 weeks. I might take a day off, that kind of thing, which is very rare even for me. But that's it. That's my year.
So, no Silk Song on your list?
Sorry, it's at the top, actually, because it's a total unknown. But the second Silk Song comes out, I'm dropping whatever I'm playing to play Silk Song.
And then are you done with Age of Calamity?
No, but I just have no idea when I'm going to get back to it.
Yeah.
If Fell Seal, it's a Switch game, and I actually don't have a lot of Switchy games on here because I have so many Kingdom Hearts games that I can play on handheld, so I didn't want to
they fill that niche.
Right, but basically, if I have time to play a handheld and I don't have one already in the chamber on the docket, then I'll probably just switch over to Calamity because it's a really easy pick up and play game. I don't have to play that game yesterday to remember what I'm doing. I can play that game 3 months later because it's exactly what I did the last time. I played that demo real quick. Sorry, go ahead.
The opposite of that is my hesitancy of going back and playing Jedi Fallen Order. I know I'm going to load that game up and just get destroyed.
That sounds punishing.
I don't remember how to play that game.
Yeah. You could drop it down. That's what I did eventually. I just dropped it down to easy, and I still didn't have a great time, but I at least got it through it and got it finished.
Yeah.
All right.
Man, this is going to be it's interesting because it sounds like a busy year, even though there's a lot of unknowns. It'll be fun to revisit this at the end of the year and see how we did.
Absolutely. Maybe do a halfway in May or March. Yeah, progress report, exactly. That'll be fun.
How many games you got on there to finish, Karch?
To finish? We'll just say 15 to 20. Easy.
Okay. I think mine's, excluding some of the multiplayer games, like replaying the Halo campaigns, which are a weekend's worth of affairs. I think I had like 10. Yeah. Jason, you committed to 6, so we've got different levels for you listeners depending upon your own amount of free to play.
Yeah, that's lofty for me. I think I rolled credits on 2 games last year, so that's lofty.
You're triple your output.
Yeah, but hey, if you're gonna give me Mario Kart, I'm already a sixth of the way there.
I will give you Mario Kart because you've actually come away with it with a solid understanding of that game that you didn't have before. I think it counts, honestly.
Yeah, and I roll credits. So,
and then next you can play Persona 5.